Hello, I'm Johnny Gators, and welcome to the Computer Bar. It's been a rough night here at the Computer Bar. This is my third attempt to do this little introduction here. This is the fun of live streaming, is that things keep going wrong. And because this is a live stream, and what I do is live streaming, I do have the chat up on Twitch and YouTube. And before I start getting into a spiel and waste time, I really want to make sure I really am live before I really start this video. So my apologies for the delays here. And for anyone that might have seen my failed starts, my apologies there. But it looks like I am actually live now, and I might actually have sound. I probably should verify that, though. So let's go ahead. Okay. All right. Whew. Hello and welcome to the Computer Bar. Finally. And good, my mixing board is still working. So yes, I'm Johnny Gators. I've been doing internet radio live streaming for many years now, although internet radio's morphed into internet radio plus YouTube plus Twitch, so video streaming's been involved. And I've been having fun with that for many years. And I decided to create this new YouTube channel, the Computer Bar, as a place to post my vintage computer-related stuff. Of course, I'll also be simulcasting on my Johnny Gators Twitch channel as well, so you might be catching me there. And chat is certainly up if you want to chime in. And it's recently that I've really become interested in the concept of vintage computers. Of course, I've always been interested in them since before they were considered vintage. It's just that I was always, kind of a forward-moving mindset when it came to what computer I was using, upgrading, replacing, and time kind of moves along. And it's been real interesting to kind of have this pause to look back. And there's been certainly a lot of other streamers out there that have inspired me in that. And most recently, the 8-Bit Guy. His videos have been popping up here and there on my YouTube as I browse through things. And at some point recently, I took notice that, hey, a lot of these guys' videos are showing up, and they're really good. And I've been like binging his channel. And as I ran out of things to binge on his channel, LGR has showed up more on my feed. And I especially liked his 486 wood grain build that he did, which has inspired my own idea for a 486 wood grain build, which I'm hoping next weekend to start that build and to be able to be set up to bring that to you live here. But we'll get more into that later. But really, what really started me thinking more about computers in a vintage mindset was Metal Jesus Rocks did a video where he built an older machine, and the idea of buying these parts that were really killer at the time for cheap now, and building a machine specifically for playing an era of games that don't work well on modern machines, or work better on a vintage machine. That really kind of blew my mind and inspired me to do this build here, which I'll dig a little more into as we get into this. But I also want to take this opportunity with this little introduction episode to kind of take a step back to what brought me to here and back to here. And really, I guess my interest in computers goes way back to the early 80s. As a kid, I had heard of computers, and the concept interested me right away. One of my earliest memories is seeing some TV program or something that talked about things that you could do with computers. And the thing that interested me most in that was that it could make designs. You draw things or make different designs on it. And I'm guessing if they were showing things like you could do spreadsheets and you can type documents and you can make designs designs are going to be the obvious thing that sticks out there. And so my dad had a compact portable. They put a handle on it, and he brought that home from the office to do some work on it, and that excited me, because he had a computer that he brought home. Like, oh, I heard you can make designs on computers. You got to show me that. And the compact portable DOS disc came with some demos on it, and it would do little designs with music. There was a little thing with the flight of the bumblebee on there, and he showed me that. That amused me. There was a little game in there too, where you had to walk around in this like changing maze environment and go to the different quarters to get the compact portables and collect as many as you could in the time period. Um, and so I have a lot of memories playing with that. Those are my earliest computer memories. Also in the 80s, at my grandparents' house, they had a Commodore 64 and a floppy disk with some old arcade games on it: Jumpin' Jack, Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, Space Invaders, Kicks, Kubert. And I had a lot of fun playing on that. It was always, get to their house, hello, can I go play the computer? And ran up and did that. And of course, also in the 80s, I got memories of Apple computers in the classroom, little bootable math games. And another fun memory I have is the elementary school I attended from 3rd to 5th grade had a computer lab. And it had, it was a little narrow room off the cafeteria with no windows in it, that had 2 long desks along either side with a bunch of Apple IIe's. And as I think back, I think to myself, I think that room was intended to be a storage closet. Long, skinny room. Yeah, that was a storage closet. They walked us all into a storage closet to play on computers. Well, we had little typing programs we did, and logo. Program it to draw different things. And, of course, throughout my childhood, typically the big item that I was always asking for a birthday or for Christmas gift was a computer. I want my own computer. I want a computer. And well, computers are a bit expensive to buy just for me, but for Christmas 1986 we got a family computer for the whole family, and that was a Computerland BC88, which is an 8088 processor with 640K of RAM. It ran DOS 2.11, and I wish I still had that machine. I think something caused it to stop working, or it wouldn't turn on anymore. Part of me cringes at the thought that it was just a case of I decided it was too old and there was nothing more I could do with this machine. I do remember it getting left out on the curb. But who knew? Who knew? I mean, we had newer computers that still had DOS under the hood that could do anything that computer could do, but better. But I wish I had that machine. I wish I didn't toss it out, because I can't find another one. I can't find another one like it. I'm looking. As soon as I find one, I am getting that. But well, at the time, I had a lot of fun on that computer. I learned my way around DOS on that machine. We got Load Runner with it. Played different PC games on it. My dad brought home Leisure Suit Larry. He didn't like it too much when I would play. My mom didn't care, though. She would help me answer the quiz questions to get in, but we couldn't let Dad know that I was playing it. And of course, there were times where he's like, "Well, if you don't want me to know you're playing that game, maybe when you write down the trivia questions on a piece of paper for your mom to answer while she's on the phone, maybe don't leave them lying on the dining room floor." But oh, the stupid things we did. But anyways, as time went on, that computer quickly became very dated, and it was something of an annoyance that we'd be at the mall, mom's off looking for something. I stop into a computer store, software store, look at the computer games, and none of them would work on this machine. And this machine was so outdated. And I was, kind of, like pissing me off, and be like, "Hey, Dad, you got to get us a new machine. We can't do anything with this machine. What are we supposed to do with this?" I don't, wasn't quite as direct or obvious about it. But I remember one conversation at the dinner table we were talking about, I can't run anything on this machine. Any software we go look at won't work on that machine. And my dad's response was, I paid a lot of money for that machine. So he wasn't done with that yet. But at some point in the 90s, my dad did pick up a 386 from work that he bought from someone at work, and brought that home. And that was our introduction to Windows in our home. Windows 3.1, which I was already familiar with by the time the 386 came into the house. My high school's computers had Windows 3.1 machines. I'm not sure the specs on those, but I took computer programming in BASIC in high school. We also had typing classes that we were required to take freshman year that were run on those machines. So that really brought Windows 3.1 into the house. Not that I ever set it up or installed it. By the time I was installing software, I was working on 98. But my first computer that was my own was a 95 machine. And that was in 1996. After working summers, saved up some money, and I basically decided I was going to work a summer job, save up money, and buy myself a computer. And I was able to buy myself a Pentium 133 megahertz machine, Windows 95. It still had an ISA Sound Blaster sound card, because that was still a thing in that era. And that was the best machine in our house. I mean, there were times where I find my mom in my room at my computer because solitaire worked faster on the Pentium than on the 386. And yeah, it was kind of the envy of everyone else in the house. And that computer got me started in college. And but once 98, 99 rolled around, that computer slowly started to die. I was getting blue screens on it. Every now and then I'd just be doing something and a blue screen pop up. And I basically knew that that meant that the network card died. And I'd have to reboot if I wanted to do anything on the internet. And really, it was the hard drive that died eventually. And thinking back now, if I was in that situation today, I'd just buy a new hard drive, reinstall Windows, and keep right on going. But I was having so many problems, I didn't know what was really going. And I needed to get work done. I remember I called my dad, like, oh, this computer, I can't get it to go. It won't turn. And he goes, well, you got money in your savings. Well, I'll talk to Mike over at the office, get him to build you something, and we'll get you a new computer. And so that was computer number 2, which had an AMD K62 processor. And being that this was 98, 99, came with Windows 98, which was the new thing at the time. So I was all excited to have a Windows 98 machine. And that was a good machine. That lasted me. The hard drive died on it, and but I got a replacement. And the guy that I bought the machine from, he bought a bigger hard drive as a replacement because that was what was on sale at the time. And that machine lasted quite a while, because in 2001 is when I decided it was time to upgrade, but that was still a working machine, and I had eventually put Windows 2000 on it, and had it working with that. I'd added more hard drives, and so I decided, okay, let's wipe this, get it down to a basic hard drive, sell it to my brother. And so I offered it to him for a reasonable price at the time, and he paid me. I got some cash. He got a computer in his house. He used to like to go to Newgrounds to vote down the new submissions that day. He talked about it like it was his job. Yeah, I remember like that year around Christmas. It's like, well, we got to decorate the tree. We got to get this done. I got to go vote on the Newgrounds videos. I'm like, what is this, like your job? You've worked up some reputation with this site. No, but someone's got to do it. Oh, good times. And eventually he passed that on to one of my sisters. And at some point she was getting rid of it, and I took it back and played around with it a little bit and tossed it after I was done with it. Basically, a lot of stuff got tossed when I moved from Maine to California. And yeah, that was the end of that tower. But I replaced that in 2001. I had a friend that I worked with at Walmart that he quit that job and got a sales job at Circuit City, and so when I was getting to the point where this computer just isn't doing enough for me, I swung by Circuit City to see my old friend and say, "Hey, what can you do for me for a deal for a computer?" And he took a look at what they had in stock and what deals he can get, and he said, "Well, we got this E-Machines. It's got an Athlon processor, 700 or 750 megahertz, somewhere in that range." And it was a display model. They still had the original box and all the software and booklets and everything, so it'd be just like new. They package it back up in the box, and took that home. So that was my next machine, and that came with Windows XP Home. I was not fond of XP when it first came out, though. So the first thing I did was wipe that right out and put a nice clean install of Windows 2000 on it, and kept that for quite some time, actually. A few times I tried to, I had some hard drive problems with that tower, so I did some reinstalls. And I figured out real early on the trick of having two hard drives and keeping your data on a separate hard drive, so wiping and reinstalling your software isn't such a big deal. And the only thing, when I think about XP Home Edition, I think about ASCII character boobs. Because it seemed like every time I tried to re-image that computer back to its default with the XP Home installation that it came with, I would end up getting pop-up advertisements as Windows alerts with ASCII character boobs in the window. And I don't know how that was being done or was being tapped into. I probably didn't have the right antivirus software at that time. I remember one time I rebooted my computer and it was like the ghost of Las Vegas invaded my computer. All these blinking bars and all these oh god, and then you learned about the adware and things like that to try to clean that stuff out. Yeah, so that was that machine, the E-Machines. That machine got me to 2004, and really the reason I decided to build a computer in 2004 all comes down to this sound card. Because I went to school for music recording, and one of my hobbies that I picked up, which was related to sound recording, is the preservation of quadraphonic sound. Taking quadraphonic tapes and records and recording them into your computer and converting them to, at the time, DTS CD, and as things evolved, DVD audio. And or multi-channel FLAC files. Now you don't even have to go to a physical media anymore, although I still like physical media. And the first thing I bought to do that was a Turtle Beach Santa Cruz sound card, which is a really cool sound card, and is actually in this tower here. I used that sound card as long as I could, and now I'm using it again. It's stayed with me all these years. It's one of the two pieces of hardware that inspired me, along with Metal Jesus Rock's video, to rebuild this machine. And the handy thing about the Turtle Beach Santa Cruz card was that it had this extra jack on the back of it. It came with a front speaker output, a rear speaker output, a line input, a mic input, and a Versa jack. And you can set the Versa jack to be a center subwoofer output, so that with your front and rear outputs you'd have analog 5.1 output to hook up to a set of surround speakers. You could set it to be a digital output, so that you could take a Y adapter cable out that and plug the RCA jack into a coaxial input on a home theater system and send Dolby Digital signal over that, and then use that to play your 5.1 surround music. Or you could use it to be a second line input, which would give you 4 channels of recording input to record. So that was like the easiest, cheapest way to get into recording quadraphonic tapes and records. And I did do some recording on that, but that was really pretty amateurish, not the quietest of sound cards. And when I was in college, I had a friend in college that we had to do a project one semester where we had to find an act to mock sign them. I think it was part of a music business meets music recording type of project. And so my friend, he found this like local group of high school kids that had a band that were interested in getting in the studio and recording some of their stuff. And they also happened to be high school kids with money. And so after the project was done, they were like, we want to keep recording, and we want to pay you money to keep recording us. And he figured out, well, if you give me enough money to record you, I can buy some equipment, and I can record you in my dorm room. Because, bringing people in to use the school's recording studio and equipment for personal projects was kind of a no-no unless, well, someone I knew had some friends record an album in that studio, but I don't know. That wasn't an option in this case. And so he bought a Lexicon Core 2 sound card, which had 4 inputs, 8 outputs, so you could set up a DAW with that and be able to record 4 channels simultaneously, be able to output 8 to a mixing board if you wanted to mix. But that got him a decent equipment to be able to do some tracking recording in his dorm room. And he had good things to say about it. It worked for him. He was able to record this band's stuff. And it was one of those cards that there were a lot of people had a lot of bad things to say about it. A lot of people had a lot of good things to say about it. And at some point, Lexicon pulled support on that card, and they wouldn't develop any further drivers on it, which meant that once XP became a thing, that card could be had for dirt cheap because no one wanted to stay on 98 after a certain point. And you could only use that card with up to Windows 98. Now, it did work on Mac as well. And I think it would work with Windows ME, but who wants to use Windows ME? You couldn't get a driver for Windows 2000. You couldn't get a driver for Windows XP. You were stuck in a 98 world if you wanted to use that card. And I figured, I got a 98 install disk. I can set up a dual boot and put that card in. Pro level card, Lexicon, pretty big name. There are enough people that say good things about this that I should be able to figure out how to set this up to work right. And then I'll have something of a decent quality to record my quad stuff, and then boot into my 2000 mode, take my files, work on them, make my DTS CDs. Piece of cake. And they could be had for dirt cheap because everyone's trying to get rid of these things. So I buy the Lexicon Core 2 card, and I run into problems with it. And most of the things I read online basically suggested, well, it doesn't play nice with AMD processors, which I had the AMD Athlon at the time, the E-machines, and they suggested you should get a Intel processor machine for that card. So I went on eBay. You can get a Pentium II for dirt cheap, and Pentium II will run Windows 98 no problem. And but I was having problems there. I was getting these occasional dropouts. And some of the things I was reading online suggested it wasn't AMD itself that was the problem, but it was certain chipsets that some AMD processor motherboards used that didn't play nicely with the card. So I don't think the E-Machines Athlon was ever my problem. So then I thought, well, maybe it's my hard drive. Maybe the hard drive's not fast enough. Maybe I need to. So I basically decided, I'm gonna get this card to work. I'm gonna need to build a really good machine to use this card on. And so I went to Newegg and I bought my first build. And I bought this Raid Max case, which came with a 380 watt power supply. That supply is dead. I bought 2 sticks of 256 Corsair Value Select RAM because I like RAM is RAM. I didn't completely know what I was doing at the time. But I went strong with the processor. Intel Pentium IV 3.0E Prescott single core 3.0 gigahertz processor. I thought that was a pretty good processor at the time. That was around the time where 2.8 was cheaper, 3.0 was decent, and I think 3.2 was your top of the line. And you never want to get top of the line because in 2 weeks it's going to be down at the next price point. So I always go at least a little below that. Asus P4C800E Deluxe motherboard. That motherboard I don't have anymore. I went through like 3 or 4 of those because I had to keep RMAing it to the point that when you RMA something a second or third time, there's one guy that works for Asus that has to approve it before they will give you an RMA number and a shipping label to send it in. And when my main computer's down, I don't want to be waiting around for that one guy to get around to it. So I know that there was a supervisor there by the name of Maurice that people sometimes refer to as Mo, because I called a lot of people and rang a lot of people's phones, and it still did not help me get that motherboard out the door the same day. I remember like the third time I went through this. Came into my desk in the morning. I'm like, I am sending this board out today. It's in a box. I'm getting this label today. And I call all day. I still didn't get it out till the next day. Oh, God. And yes, I bought another one of those motherboards to redo this build because this is kind of a, what's the word I'm looking for? This is my own personal rebuild of that first build for my retro machine. This one seems to be, knock on wood, working better. But yeah, that's what I went for with the motherboard. I also had a AGP ATI All-in-Wonder Pro video card, AGP slot card, and my Turtle Beach sound card. Those came over from my other machine. I love the video card. That's still in this tower. That video card and that sound card, I've not been able to throw it out. I've carried it with me across the country and back and kept it with me all these years. And there are times when people say, if you're not going to use it again, why are you holding on to it? And I always ask myself, I will find something to do with those someday. And thankfully I was right. I found something to do with them someday. So I think that kind of sums up the hardware that I built initially in my first build. And the intent was I was going to set it up to be a 98-2000 dual boot because I still wasn't on board with XP, even in 2004. But I was still liking 2000. And I ran into problems. I never really got the 98 boot to work very well on that build. I don't remember what those problems I was running into at the time, but I think I was running into some driver problems. I couldn't get some things to work right. And at the end of the day, I still had the dropout problems with that Lexicon Core 2 card. Some years later, I played around with it on newer hardware with a 98 build, and I still had the same dropout. So I don't know why I could never get that card to work without occasional dropouts. But it was I don't know if that was part of the problem. Maybe there were some of them had the problem, some of them didn't, or if there was just certain hardware that I just always had, but I think I still have that card somewhere in the basement. I don't know if I finally brought myself to throw it out, but I never got it to work right. But I eventually ditched the 98 partition, and this was a pretty screaming machine. And it was my primary machine until 2007 when I replaced the motherboard and processor. And unfortunately, I found at that point that AGP slots were no longer a thing, and I had to drop the All-in-Wonder Pro video card, which I loved that card. I remember some years before this build, I was at my aunt and uncle's for Thanksgiving, and we went up to, my uncle had a little computer room area. We can go like play a few games or something, and I click on something, and a TV comes up, changing channels. And that was like, whoa, you can watch TV on your computer. that was the coolest thing ever. And I remember when I got into college, I wanted to get a TV tuner card for the computer, but they were either something that sucked or something that was expensive. So after college, at some point when I had the Athlon, I bought a standalone TV tuner card that kind of sucked. I believe it had like an analog audio output that you had to hook up to the line input of your sound card and basically turn that on in your sound to actually get TV sound. I had that for a little while, and then I bought the All-in-Wonder Pro card, and I loved that. And that was something that hit me hard in 2007 when I did my new build, and I had to give up that card. You couldn't even find a modern video card that had a built-in TV tuner. I would have had to have bought a separate tuner card, and I think I bought another video card that would work with that motherboard, and I don't even have that on my notes. But that build was another Asus motherboard, 8AN32SLI, with an Athlon 64X2 3800 Plus processor. And I still have that running my media server RAID over there. So that has, I didn't think I was going to stick with Asus after how many times I had to RMA the original board I built with this. But that board, knock on wood, I never had to RMA. Now my P4C800E, that eventually after 3 or 4 RMAs lasted, it eventually died at some point when it fell out of warranty. And that got tossed. I think I held on to the processor, but I lost a lot of stuff when I moved back from California. But that's kind of the history of this case, because I built the new build into this case, and then I did another build in 2013 in a new case, and then I had to upgrade the heat sink, and the new case wasn't big enough, so I had to put that build in this case. And my main machine was in here. I had to replace the motherboard again 2015. And then last year, I saw the Metal Jesus Rocks video. I got itching to do something with the Turtle Beach Santa Cruz sound card and the All-in-Wonder Pro video card. And I decided, you know what? I'm going to redo my first build because that motherboard has 98 drivers. I should be able to make a pretty screaming 98 machine on that. I could, use this old hardware that I have that I've been wanting to reuse. I could make it dual boot to XP. And also, with the All-in-Wonder Pro card, I can't use it as a TV tuner anymore, but it's still a video capture card. And I still want to, capture some VHS tapes every now and then. So, I throw the breakout box on this, and that plugs in the back here. Well, yeah. And I can boot into XP, and I can capture, hook up my VCR, capture some videotapes, throw those files on another hard drive, and work on them on a modern computer. Because up till now, I've had like a cheap USB capture card that, can give me some problems sometimes, might not play nice at Windows 10 all the time. I have an Elgato capture device that I absolutely hate. The thought of bringing this back into play to capture my VHS tapes was real appealing. Plus, it would give me a decent machine to do some old school 98 stuff on. And, So, I still love this case. It was tricky finding another case to move my current main machine into, because they don't make them like this anymore. And like I said, I had this big heat sink that's hanging out of a modern, skinny, small case. And I don't want to buy the big fancy ones with all the lights. I just need something functional. I mean, you see this. You know why I bought this case back then, because it was the cheapest damn case that Newegg would sell me. And I just took a look at that and said, yep, hey, it comes with a power supply. That checks off 2 boxes for as cheap as I can. I put all the budget in the motherboard and the processor. I bought a case that I thought it was all going to fit in, but I have to leave the side panel off of that because the heat sink's hanging out, but whatever. So let's go over this build. So yeah, I emptied out this case, and I went on eBay and picked up another P4C800E motherboard that was still working, and it came with a slower processor in it. And I tracked down another Pentium IV Prescott single-core 3.0 gigahertz processor. And I still had RAM. No, I didn't still have the RAM kicking around. I had RAM that was too new for this, but too old for anything else I still have kicking around. So I bought RAM, and I did the obvious thing, max it out. Let's max out the RAM. And so I've got like a gig of RAM in here, I believe. And the problem with that is that Windows 98 doesn't like installing with that much RAM. It don't know what to do with it. So that was the first problem I ran into installing 98 on here. And but I found fixes for that. But then I kept running into more problems when I tried to set up 98. I was having problems installing drivers where I get things freezing and locking up, or a blue screen, and I was really banging my head against the wall. And I thought, well, gee, this might have been what I was running into the last time I tried to do this, because I never got 98 to work right on the initial build, and I eventually gave up. You know, and really, this motherboard, you know, was state of the art in 2004. You know, which puts it 6 years after 98. So it's really, you know, a bit after that era. I just realized I haven't checked any chat rooms. All right, Barry Ryder, I'm sorry if you couldn't keep up. I'm excited about all this stuff. Danny DeVitas writes, and this is a very American stream, beer mug that says beer on it. Poggers. Shroomies Gamer writes in, can it play Fortnite? And Chang writes in, why are you talking? There is no one watching. Well, someone might be watching. Patchy Snipes writes in, he's just kidding. Play Fortnite, though. It probably could play. I don't know. I'm not sure. I was never into Fortnite. Favorite adult actress? Sarah Michelle Gellar. She did great as Kendall Hart on All My Children. Okay. So maybe I'm talking too fast for people to keep up with all of this. All right, so I rebuilt this machine with the Asus motherboard and the Pentium IV processor that I rebought off of eBay, put in my video card and Turtle Beach card that I had held on to. I also have in here an M-Audio Delta 1010 LT sound card because it got to a point where it was blue screening my Windows 10 machine, so I had to get rid of that and find another solution there. But it gives me a decent audio capture on here when I'm capturing VHS tapes in XP. And yeah. No, I mean porn actress. Yeah, I'm not going to answer that question, but thank you. Although, I mean, that is one of the two things that the internet was made for, and this is a tech-related stream, so I do see how that is on topic. But maybe we could talk about cat pictures instead. No, computers. Right. Where was I? So yeah, I put this together. I ran into problems with the 98 install that it kept on crashing when I tried to install the drivers. And I started thinking, well, this came out 6 years after. Maybe it just wasn't meant to work with 98. But they released 98 drivers for this motherboard, so clearly the option was there, which I guess it's a little odd that they included Windows 98 drivers for this motherboard 6 years later. So I kept racking my brain. So I finally did something that I should have done from the start. And I read the instructions from the beginning to the end. And it turns out that this motherboard's got a primary IDE bus, a secondary IDE bus, and it's also got 2 serial ATA connectors. So you could hook up 6 drives in theory. And that's fine and dandy if you're using Windows 2000 or Windows XP. But Windows 98 doesn't know what to do with all those buses. So in the BIOS, you have to enable a legacy mode, and you have to tell it to use either only the primary and secondary IDE bus, or to use the serial ATA bus and only one of the 2 IDE buses. Otherwise, Windows 98's going to see hardware it doesn't know what to do with, and when you try to install the drivers, it's going to freak out and lock up on you. Interesting questions, though, in the chat room. What's your favorite adult beverage? Well, I like beer. I do like mixing drinks here at the bar here, though. Let's see. I got Eagle Rare. That's some good stuff. Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. A little bit of apple pie moonshine. Not bad stuff there. And I got the Playboy Bartender's Guide and Mr. Boughton. So plenty of mixed drinks options here at the bar. I just stepped on something. Huh. Piece of glass. Well, when did that break? Okay. So once I figured out that I had to set the BIOS to the legacy mode, that made the Windows 98 installation go much smoother on this machine. And I do have a solid-state drive that I set to dual boot to 98 and XP, and this terabyte drive for storage. And for my optical drives, this is the first DVD burner I bought when they came down to affordable prices. And this CD burner, I've had this forever. I'm actually not sure when I first picked that up. And even has a cup holder. I also have this hard drive in here that's not hooked up. I was going to hook it up to the primary IDE bus and install Windows 95 on it, because right now I had the BIOS enabled to only use the serial ATA and the secondary IDE bus. The thought being that if I got a working 95 installation on another hard drive hooked up to the primary IDE, I could go into the BIOS and set it to use only the IDE buses, and then it would boot to 95 with optical access, and that would give me a third option. That didn't work out. I've not been able to get 95 to complete an install on this machine. I do have smaller RAM sticks, but at some point I got bored and stopped playing around with the 95 installation. But this has both a 3.5 floppy and 5 1/4 floppy in here. This drive I actually put in this tower when I first did the build, but I never got it to work, and I never needed it, so I never bothered to figure out what was wrong. So when I did this rebuild, I knew that I was going to want a 3.5 floppy drive to work. And actually it might have worked at first, because I don't think I could have installed 98 without that working. But at some point it stopped working, and I thought it was bad, and I never bothered trying to fix it up because I just didn't need it anymore. So I actually bought another 3.5-inch floppy drive thinking I was going to have to swap this out, but I had to pick up a new cable, and I hooked it up, and it still worked. So I was quite thrilled with that this floppy drive that's been sitting in this case since I first built it, that's kind of stayed in this case from upgrade to upgrade, has continued to sit here non-functional, has been able to be functional now. I added this 5 1/4 recently. The downside is this motherboard was only designed to work with one floppy drive. It won't let you add a B drive in the BIOS. It'll only let you add an A drive. It'll let you select if it's 3.5 or 5.25. So it does support both, but doesn't support having two drives. The cable originally came with only had one connector on it, and if I use a two connector cable, it still doesn't give you the option in the BIOS. So I have to move the cable from the 5.25 to 3.5 and change the setting in the BIOS, which is kind of a downside, but yeah. And Chang writes in, I have 5.25 floppy. Okay, good for you. And bro, is that a cigarette lighter on top of your PC? Yes, yes it is. It came with the cup holder. It used to work. It stopped working a long time ago, and I don't smoke, so I guess you could plug in a charger to it. But yes, that is a cigarette lighter on there. I mainly bought it for the cup holder, though, which unfortunately is just like it won't fit most cups. So that was a fail, that purchase. So yeah, this is kind of my first technically vintage build by going back and rebuilding my original build in 2004. I consider it more of a functional vintage machine. You know, I built it to be able to do 98 stuff in a machine that is a bit newer than what should run 98, but still old enough to run 98 and run it well. And also it runs XP well. And so that's really been where I've started my trip into building something specifically to be vintage. We could hook this up. I have cords here. Just going to go ahead and connect some things here. Just to demonstrate the dual boot. I just need to find the power cord. There we go. And we need to, hopefully this won't make me lose sound. Sometimes my capture device, which I'm using to capture the video and the audio, malfunctions. So let me know if sound suddenly drops. Hopefully it won't, though. All right, and we should have sound back. And as you can see here, we got the machine booting up. Pachi Snipe says, drop a sub if you just read chat. Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on the chat here. BML Twitch writes in dual boot. Sounds like what happened when my ex-wife and mother-in-law kicked me out of that. Yeah, that would be a dual boot. And here is another dual boot because we have the option to bring up Windows XP or Windows 98, which it just called Windows because when that was being installed, it didn't see any reason to label it anything else. Since we didn't hit enter on anything, it's booting into XP, as you can hear. Chang writing in suggesting that I may have done things to computers. I don't know if you think that's funny. I don't think that's very original. Patchy writes in, bro, is that a Takashi 6iX9 exclusive keyboard? It's actually it's an HP. I actually didn't have a PS2 keyboard anymore, so I went online and found the cheapest PS2 keyboard money could buy on eBay, which happened to be this HP Beauty here. Okay, that should bring back the sound. I'm not sure why the computer shut off. I wasn't looking at the capture when that happened. But the computer has shut off. And when I'm capturing VGA video, if there's no VGA video to be captured, the sound disappears. So I had to set it back to composite mode. Chang writes in, just kidding about the penis thing. Sorry. No, I mean, hey, you're trying to be funny. It's all good. I'm not trying to be mean about it, but I am also just trying to be like, you know, don't be too annoying. But hey, we got an empty beer mug here, don't we? We got to do something about that. There we go. Got another cold Yingling from the fridge. There we go. All right, so now let's figure out what went wrong with our boot. So I'm going to bring the capture back up here and... Oh. Huh. I think I might have had a problem with the power cord. All right, well, I just need to set the capture back to VGA. There we go. There's the lovely P4C800E boot screen. Pachi Snipes wants to know, where's that beer from? From Pennsylvania. Well, I bought it at the grocery store down the street here in Massachusetts, but that's Yingling, which is brewed in Pennsylvania. All right, so let's take a look. Let's boot into 98 this time. Now that I got a keyboard and mouse in front of me. And there's that lovely 98 boot screen there. And this has come in handy for if I need to create a floppy disk for some reason, whether it be 3.5 or 5 1/4, I can come on here and do that. There's software that will format 5 1/4 disks to many different formats. Another thing is I recently picked up a Commodore 64. I found a guy has a... Oh, my nose is running. Let me go grab a tissue. You all don't need to watch that happening. There's that lovely 98 boot sound. And no, a guy listed his vintage computer collection that he was selling on Craigslist. And he had a lot of Atari stuff, a lot of consoles, a lot of PCs, a lot of things I'd never heard of before. And there was one section on the shelf where I saw a bunch of Commodore 64s. And I've been wanting to buy a Commodore 64 for some time. So I sent him a message, said, you got any more of those Commodore 64s left? He goes, I got one more left, but it doesn't have the power cord. Which is like, I'll buy a power cord off of eBay. You got one of your own to test it out with? He goes, yeah, sure, come on over. We'll test it all out. So one thing that comes in handy is I bought an adapter that will allow you to hook up a Commodore 64 drive to a parallel port, which parallel ports are kind of an outdated port nowadays. So of course this computer has one, no problem. So I do also use this if I need to, for some reason, format and create a Commodore 64 disk off of, downloads of software. Of course, now I've got an SD card reader for my Commodore 64, which will simplify things, but sometimes you just want to use all the original equipment. Let's check out what's going on in the chat room. The king of Twitch, can you be my uncle? Well, I mean, right now we're all kind of quarantined and isolating. A little hard to be a uncle. I don't know. Trying to go somewhere there. King of Twitch, yeah, sure. Uncle Johnny coming in for us in the middle of a pandemic. Windows. No way, a parallel port. That's insane. I didn't know that the Commodore 64s could connect a parallel port. Well, the Commodore 64 drive can... There's online documents on how you can build your own. I bought one that was already made because you don't want to put a soldering iron in my hand. I'll burn the house down. But yeah, you can make cables. There is software out there that people have made. People smarter than me have figured this stuff out, that you could get basically a cable that on one end is like a Commodore 64 serial port, the other end's a parallel port. You run a little executable, it recognizes the drive, and then you run a software that interfaces with it so you can format the disks and copy files back and forth. Let's see, communism or capitalism? I don't know. Those are both those options got their problems, man. Chief Pippin builds dank retro PCs for a living. That's cool. I'm just starting to get into the retro PC thing. I mean, I've been interested in this when it was not retro, so now I'm taking a look back. Are the screams of your enemies drowned out from the sound of the Windows 98 startup? And they just might be. No one's smarter than you. Oh, please. I'm good at faking it. That's the trick, is faking it. That's the number one thing in help desk. You just got to fake it and then go Google it. It's all about figuring out the right Google search terms. That's insane, bro. Didn't even know. This is facts. That's real. All right, this is a fun chat we got here going. I'm glad... You know what? I'm glad my first attempt at this video failed, because I would have been done by now. I would have missed all this fun chat. Yeah, you all missed it. Like 4 hours ago, I started this up. OBS showed I had levels, and I spent an hour here sending complete silence to Twitch and YouTube. And Coke or Pepsi? Oh, Coke. Coke all the way. Especially the Mexican Coke, using the real cane sugar. But I don't drink a lot of soda anymore, too much sugar. I like to get all my carbs from beer. Anyways, where was we with this? Yeah, so we booted up to Windows 98. I don't have any of my game CD-ROMs with me right now, but you know what? Why don't we full screen this and see what I do have on here? I think I loaded a bunch of Windows Entertainment Pack stuff on here. You know, that's the type of stuff that, this stuff doesn't run on Windows 10. If you try to, I mean, maybe they make modern remakes of these, but these games, you try to run these executables on Windows 10, it basically says no. You have to make a virtual machine for that. Let's go ahead and size that back down. Chief Ben wants to know, can you do any Fortnite dances? I don't know much about Fortnite, and I don't think I'm drunk enough for dancing yet. This is beer number 1, 2, 3. Is this only beer number 4? Oh, I think I rinsed out 2 bottles earlier. think this is beer number 6. BML Twitch says, please be the light of Twitch that leads us to defeat the thoughts. You know what? There's room for everyone on Twitch. What about the sprinkler? Please, bro. Well, is that the one where you go like that and that and that and that? Is that the sprinkler? Something like that? Is that what you're looking for? Cheng wants to know who's your best friend. Best friend's name's Seth. Lives in Maine. I haven't been able to catch up lately because he recently moved from Vermont to Maine, and then medical stuff, and well, now we're quarantined, so we're gonna have to hang out once this ends. Now, Chief Pepin thinks that was a pretty good sprinkler. Apparently, I don't know. I think a true sprinkler would involve actually spitting the beer out to water the ground, wouldn't it? But I don't want to get that on the keyboard. So yeah. Oh, Patchy sub, thank you. I don't have like alerts or things that pop up, but thank you everyone for participating. Definitely happy to have people aboard here and join in. This is the fun of live stream. This is why I don't produce and upload content. I always like the live vibe, the live feel. Do it live. We'll do it live! I was going to say some more things about this machine, but I'm not quite sure I remember what I was going to say. But this machine has come in handy, especially because I have this machine, which I don't have room to put down. So I think we'll turn this off now. Or maybe we'll just, you know what, we'll just move that there. We'll move that there. So this here, which is being blocked partially, is a compact portable 3. I believe this was released in 1987. It's quite a bit smaller from the first 2 compact portable models. And the keyboard, got a handle on it. Also comes with a carrying case. And there we got the keyboard. And screen comes up here. I only have one power cord over here, so I gotta shut down the 98 machine to plug this thing in. Which means I gotta change some settings on that so we don't lose sound. All right, we should still have sound, and we'll pull that back there, and we'll go ahead and pretend like we shut that down properly, because I lost my screen, but I didn't want to lose my sound. Let's see what's going on in the chat room. No way, a compact portable 3. You have my sub king, Gator Gang, if you will. No way, a handle and a carrying case. That is so fire. What do you call your fans? We need a name. Gatorades, obviously. Our language from here on out is Ruckian. You low-key look like Johnny Sint. We deem ourselves the Gators. Okay, that works. Gators, Gator Gang. I'm not picky. But, yeah, the compact portable 3. And this was a gift from 5-Hit Dune, who I believe is also still alive with some smooth tunes that he plays on the 5-Hit Dune channel. I do a show with him tomorrow, although it's after midnight, so technically later today, called The Dune and Bob Show, which is also on the 5-Hit Dune channel, which I do set to restream over on this channel as well. That's Sunday 6 to 8 Eastern p.m. And we have fun doing that. The second half of that show, we do a thing called Twitch Finds. Dune spends all week checking out the great talent on Twitch and features it. We have a lot of fun with that. But he gave me this machine because he lives in Kansas. And when I moved from California back to the Northeast, I swung by there and stopped by for a visit. And he had this in his garage and knew I was interested in some older machines. And so the first thing that happened when I turned it on was it said it needed a boot disk because it wasn't properly configured to even recognize the internal hard drive anymore. Because you have to actually set the settings to the right drive type, even though it had an internal hard drive. So I had to find those disk images and create those 5¼ inch floppies using this machine. And from there, I was able to boot into the settings here, get that. The BIOS battery on this was a weird, funky battery that I had never seen before. But I was able to take that out and solder in a 2032 battery socket, and that provides enough voltage to keep the clock going. And I've got MS-DOS 5.0 installed on this right now. This probably would have shipped with 3.1 or something like that, but certainly someone DOS 5 is an appropriate DOS for the time period of this machine. That's certainly something that someone reasonably would have installed on here if they had one. And Patchy's doing hashtag Gatorade game. How often do you stream? Well, I do a show on here every Monday. Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern. And that show I do with a few co-hosts, Venison and Lulu and Brian. And we all just kind of shoot the shit, talk about whatever's on our mind. So Mondays at 8, we do that. Sunday 6 to 8, I do the Dune and Bob show with 5 Hit Dune. And I'm starting to do this weekend thing that's more related on vintage computers. So if you like the vintage computer stuff, I think doing this regularly on Saturday nights could be a thing. You all seem to like this, so I think I could keep doing this regularly if you like the computer bar here. So Patchy seems to be excited about Mondays at 8. That show's a little different than this, but it's all good. It's all good. So yeah, this was kind of a fun little project. Got this fixed up, and I do have. Oh, it wants me to hit. I'm having some keyboard problems with this one. Sometimes I gotta wiggle this wire to get the keyboard to work right. There we go. You gotta love it when it gives you a keyboard error and tells you to press F1 to continue. But yeah, I got DOS 5.0 working on this. So we got this boot up to a DOS prompt right now. And I also have Windows 3.0 installed on here. I think if I upgraded the memory on this, I could get Windows 3.1 on here, but that's kind of pushing it a little bit. I'm happy with this as a fun little DOS machine. Roman numeral 4 is writing, "We love it." Patchy Snipes writes in, "I'll stan you." Often. Chief Pippin goes, "Bro, you capping Windows 3.0? Chang wants to know if I have a wife. Yes, I do. My wife also streams. She is, what's her channel name? I know she goes by the name Lummy on Twitch. I got to look up what her Twitch handle is, though. But yeah, my wife's Twitch channel is, let me just confirm this. I want to make sure I get the spelling right here. Lummish. Lummish, and she does gaming streams. So if you want to check that out. But yeah, Windows 3.0 runs on here. I don't have my serial mouse with me right now. It's over there on the table. But it has, on the back here, we got a serial port, a CGA monitor port, and a parallel port. I'm not sure how well you could really see that at this camera angle. But I did Roman numeral writes in Minecraft or Fortnite. I'm not really big on those games. And Pachi wants me to get her on a stream. We have done some streams together. Actually, the logo for this channel was based on, we were doing a Saturday night stream together called Marriage Consoling, where we were playing console games together. And that's why there's the the two of us with the heart-shaped game cord around our heads for the channel logo. And we still do that from time to time. It was hard to keep up with doing that every Saturday night, especially with our gaming interests being a bit different. I'm really into platformers. She's not good at the platformers. She's really into the RPGs. I kind of find most RPGs boring, although I did have fun. We had fun joking around playing Final Fantasy on the Nintendo one night. She had fun with Super Mario World because she found some easy levels that she did while I went off on the Star Road and played those levels. But I play a lot of the old school console games. I love the Zelda games. I've not kept up with the newest Zelda games. I want to. It's just there's so many things I want to do in such limited time, and now vintage computing is eating into that time. But yeah, I got the I got over next to the camera a 32-inch Sony Trinitron CRT TV with Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, and PlayStation 2 hooked up to it, and GameCube. And I've got several games for that. Big on Mario, Zelda, all those games. Pachi wants to know what my day job is. Help desk. Someone's got to tell you to turn it off and turn it back on. How many bodies you caught, Big? I don't know. Is that a gaming thing? But yeah, we might, you know what, check out some of the Saturday night streams. You might catch us doing some marriage consoling streams as well. A few weeks ago, we were playing some SimCity 3000 on this machine. We were having fun with that. That was a fun stream. But yeah, so this has got the Windows 3.0 on it. I was hoping this has got a 286 processor in it. So this would be a good old school DOS machine. I just don't have a good monitor for it to use as an external monitor. Because it's easy to find VGA monitors, but to get a old school CGA, EGA monitor, that's a little more difficult. Most of those are, dead or thrown out. And I bought one off of eBay, and the guy sent it to me, and it came up all blurry and flickering. And I sent the guy a message and said, yeah, this is flickering. He said, oh, it probably got damaged in shipping. I'll just give you back all your money and you keep it. So now I have a boat anchor. I don't know if there's anyone that fixes those up. I know there are people that will restore antique televisions. So although a lot of those people don't know a whole lot about TVs, but they know enough about electronics to fix them up. I attempted that. Picked up a 1949 TV, took it apart, stared at all the little parts that had worn out over the years, and bought a bunch of parts and stared at them some more, and realized I was in over my head. So now I'm in negotiations to trade that for a working TV of a lesser model. I love old technology, as you can see. BML Twitch rating Bone Acre Gang. That joke goes back to a mock advertisement someone made for the original iMac. That he like did it in the style of like the iMac commercials of the time, but he was talking about all the problems with Macs. And he held up an iMac and said, "I love the handle on this. This is so you can attach a chain and use it as a boat anchor." So that line's always stuck with me, to refer to something as a boat anchor when it's useless. But this ain't a boat anchor. This will boot into DOS. And hey, I got Leisure Suit Larry 1 and 2 on here. I got the first two Space Quest games on here. This has been a lot of fun. And the only problem is, well, this has this little slot here, and there's an extra compartment that you can snap onto here that gives you expansion slots to add more cards. And I have that, and it has a better video card in there that is an EGA video card, because on board is CGA, which only gives you 4 colors for games. EGA, you can do a lot more. I think 16. And I can't figure out how to install the EGA card, though, because I had to wipe this hard drive and reinstall DOS from the start, and I don't have any drivers for an old EGA video card. So I've not been able to get that working. All right, so let's see here. Cop a 230 Hz 4K monitor, dog. I got a big screen TV on the wall. I don't think any of these computers will connect to it. Although I did buy a S-Video to HDMI adapter. And the reason I bought that was because the modern adapters that you can get for a Commodore 64 will easily output to S-Video. So I got my Commodore 64 up on the big screen TV, no problem. Roman numeral 4 wants to know, do you wipe sitting down or standing up? Dude, while you're all out there fighting over the toilet paper, I got a bidet. I'm set. You all have fun fighting over that paper, though. Will you play Fortnite with subs? Well, I'd have to learn how to play Fortnite. Now, what is Fortnite again? I've heard of that. I would pay $700 a month for your OnlyFans. For OnlyFans? I'm not sure what, F's in chat for the EGA card? I don't know what that means. I can't keep up. Bro, you got a TikTok. TikTok, is that like the new Vines? Okay, boomer. Hey. I'm getting older, but I'm not a boomer. I am definitely not a boomer. I'll be right back, though. I need to go blow my nose. It's real funny the way you go, okay, boomer, because I do feel a little out of step with the modern streaming. I mean, I was doing internet radio before any of this video streaming was happening. We took all our calls with Skype. Now everyone's using Discord, so I got to figure that out. And it's funny, I talked to my wife, who, she's streaming the video games, and I'm like, how are you doing it without a mixing board? And she goes, well, when someone gets on Discord, you only hear the microphone. I'm like, wait, you don't do a sub-mix with an aux send? Yeah. So, no, they just hear the microphone. Why would you do it that way? I'm like, well, how do you pan your co-hosts in the stereo field? Well, no one cares about that. BML Twitch writes in, our king has left us. Oh, come on now. I'm not going anywhere. No, the okay boomer thing. That's referring to people that are not. That's more political. Isn't it? Dude, I like Bernie. So I don't think that puts me in the boomer camp. Chang writes in, you're the greatest streamer ever. I don't know if you're being serious or sarcastic or both at the same time, but I'm also drunk, so I'm fine with all of that. Yeah. Anyways, this is my next project. This here is a Toshiba T4600. And no, I didn't go looking for one. I found one. I watched the 8-Bit Guy's video about building a old school, gaming laptop. And he talked about this era laptops being pretty good for running DOS games. The downside being that they don't have sound cards. And so I thought, well, that seems like a good idea for me. And I wanted to get something that was in kind of that 486 range. That'd be a really good machine for Windows 3.1 and would play those games, and also be a really good DOS machine. And I was thinking, a desktop might be nice. I was looking at some motherboards, and I was thinking, well, then I got to find a case, and I got to find a video card, and I'll probably buy the motherboard, and I'll probably sit in my basement for a year, and I'll go, oh yeah, I was going to do something with that. So BML Twitch writes in, CRT or LCD? Well, this one has a monochrome screen, but it's melted, or it's not good. I have another one upstairs that I've completely disassembled. That's a T4600C, which that one has a color screen. And I disassembled that one because I bought that one first with the thought that I would fix that one up. And the person that shipped it noticed that this would fit perfectly fine into a padded envelope without any further packaging, no box necessary. And so, of course, the dumbasses at UPS tossed it into the truck and smashed up a corner on it real good. And so I found this, which has a busted screen, but intact plastic casing. And so basically that gives me two machines that use mostly the same parts, that I can take the best parts and build one good machine. Now, I don't have a power supply for this yet, but that will be arriving sometime this week. So next weekend I should have all the parts I need to disassemble this, take the box of the other disassembled one, and start building a machine, and hopefully get something that we can boot up and install DOS on. All right, people saying they're serious. Watch Mr. Fruit on YouTube, and I'll sub every month. I don't know what. You know what? I'll check that out, Mr. Fruit. I got to Google that, I guess. Question: if I had a VGA 64 or a Commodore 3.0, could I connect it to a Windows 7 port or a Ryzen port? Is that what I sound like? Would a Ryzen port break if you tried wiring the CPU and graphics cord sideways attached to the fans? I'm not sure what Ryzen is. That last chat might take down our king single-handedly. No, I'm just going to continue on. So yeah, this project is inspired by the 8-Bit Guy on YouTube and LGR on YouTube. And LGR did these great series of videos where he built a 486 desktop that he then used contact paper to make the side of the case look like it has wood paneling. And I like that idea so much that I've ordered some wood paneling contact paper, and I'm hoping to make this a wood paneled 486 laptop. So thank you to the LGR YouTube channel for inspiring me to try to make my own wood grain 486 in laptop form. And thank you, 8-Bit Guy, for your video about vintage laptops. And if you like this vintage stuff, you should check out those YouTube channels. I've been binging those videos the past few weeks quite a bit, and that's really got me excited about this stuff. Ryzen ports are like the most vintage PCs. I've probably heard of them. Heck, I got a box of punch cards upstairs if you want to see those. But you can find pictures online. There's no need for me to run up and grab those. All right, let's take a look. What is a Ryzen port? AM4 socket, AM4 platform, AMD. AMD unveils socket AM4 platform for Ryzen 7th generation A series Athlon. Okay, so that's a type of AMD processor. Okay, I had an Athlon. At some point in the 2000s, had the Athlon AMD E-Machines tower. I don't think that was a Ryzen. I never had that, so that's not a term I familiarized myself with. Let's see, Roman numeral 4 goes, I like my women like I like my PCs. Vintage. Okay, all right. Chief Pippin writes in, they're similar to Commodore 64s, but they have a little different RAM processing units. Oh, okay. Patchy Snipes writes in, do I use USB to connect my 240 hertz monitor to my toothbrush? Well, trying to think of a funny way to answer that question, but I'm trying to think of why you'd hook a monitor up to your toothbrush. Well, I guess if you got like a little webcam on the toothbrush to really make sure you get those hard to reach spots, because if you don't have a flip top head and you don't have a reach toothbrush, how else are you gonna reach them? And so I guess the USB would be handy if it would, but USB is a little bit large for a camera that's going to go in your mouth. Patchy writes in, dang, I just looked it up and it says VGA. Do toothbrushes need 500-watt power supplies? I guess if you're going to it depends on what teeth you're brushing. I mean, I don't know what it takes to for the zookeeper to brush the teeth of some of those larger animals, but you might need some more power behind the equipment there to, clean some teeth there. I mean, if you're gonna brush some big teeth. Do you have one I can borrow? Nope. Yo, can I use my Tooth Tunes as a Bluetooth speaker? Maybe. If I plugged the 64 Commodore into my ass and jumped into an electrically charged pool, hypothetically speaking, would you grab my reboot? I probably don't want to touch an electrically charged pool. That could get dangerous, so I'm going to say no. I might call for help though, or try to pull the drain out of the pool. So that's most of what I had prepared for this stream, was to kind of give my spiel about vintage computer interest, talk about this machine, and talk about this for next week. So I don't know if that interests all you, watching me tear this apart next Saturday night, but the computer bar will be open next Saturday. I guess right now we just take some more questions and maybe wrap this up in the next 15 minutes or so. Chang writes in, if I plugged a 64... Oh no, I already read that one. Wait, were those machines again? What were those machines again? Well, this one's a T4600 by Toshiba, and the other one I have upstairs I took apart is a T4600C. This machine is a Compaq, C-O-M-P-A-Q, Compaq Portable 3. I also have an original Compaq Portable in my basement, but it won't turn on because the power supply is not providing enough power. And the power supply is not a replaceable unit. It's a circuit board put in a very small place right to the left of the built-in CRT. And replacing that is going to be a little difficult, although someone on the forum pointed at me too. They make these little mini power supply boards now that have kind of a modern connector, which I could then put my own connector on the end of an adapter and make that work. But that takes a 12 volt input, so I still have to get something to convert AC to 12 volt that can fit in that spot. So yeah, and then also we're talking about, you know, making adapters and cutting wires, and that could get a little messy. But I'm hoping to get that up and running, since the compact portable was the first computer I ever laid hands on. Patchy writes in, T4600C is literally my favorite device ever for recording TikTok, bro. Where do you hook up the camera? Yeah, which port you hooking the camera up to? We might have to try that. Let's see. What's your opinion on Until Tomorrow? I had to check what that hashtag's all about, because I'm not up on that trend. Hypothetically speaking, if I was to overheat a 64 Commodore and put it on my grill, cover it in lighter fluid, and turn the heat to the max, do you think the computer would take any damage? I think there's a good chance of it. Pretty good chance. The Ryzen port, the first port. I don't know. That's a good question. Because here's the thing, like my 98 XP machine here, on this rebuild, I've not hooked it up to network or internet or anything like that, because well, I haven't had a reason to, and I'm a little reluctant to, because, you know, well, 98, it's so old. Well, I guess I could get it on a network. The thing is that getting a browser in 98 that'll work with the internet today. A fun little experiment I did some months ago is I built a 95 virtual machine, and I installed Internet Explorer 1.0 on it, and I guess my idea of fun is very different from other people's versions of fun. And I found that I could not find a single website that would load anymore in Internet Explorer 1.0. I think there are versions of Opera that are still compatible with Windows 98 that'll still browse much of the internet. XP is a different story. XP is new enough, you might be able to get on the internet, but then again, it's not all that secure. I mean, Microsoft's not been making security updates for these operating systems for some time, so they're not machines that you really want to do heavy internet or networking on. Roman numeral 4 wants to know if you can watch pornos on the TI-84 using the Ryzen port. No, well, I think they make porn for everything. It's probably going to be like, you know, character images or block images. There probably is TI calculator porn. It would not surprise me. BML Twitch going, when are you having a boxing match with Logan Paul? Isn't that guy that found that dead body? What's up with that? Speaking of Logan Paul, oh, is that what we're speaking of now? I heard he has free merch on xvideos.com. We should all check it out together on your PC. Yeah, I've never heard of that site before. Sure, I'll click that link. Oh, you're all a riot. I love this. All right, well, I think I'm near the bottom of a beer. Do we got enough material for another beer? I got nothing more to talk about, and I think we've beat the Ryzen port joke to death here. Yo, can you run Windows 11 on that thing? Do you think there's going to be a Windows 11? Serious question, because my understanding is Microsoft is considering Windows 10 to be the Windows, and they're just going to keep updating that with like, two major updates a year, and keep considering that to be Windows 10. And at some point, a friend of mine mentioned in passing a conversation, eventually they're going to release a new Windows. And I'm like, isn't this supposed to be it? And, you know, is there going to be a Windows 11? Or are they going to skip numbers again? Or are they going to go back to letters? That's an interesting thought. So, can you chug one for the boys? You know what I can do? I don't know. You all want to do shots? If you all want to do a shot with me, no, I mean honor system here. You don't have your webcams up, so I can't verify whether or not. But I mean, I do got a bottle of aquavit in the freezer, and I got some shot glasses down here. Let's see, bro. Scarlett Johansson is over, and she said she wants your number. Yeah, sure she does. I can run Windows 69 on Roman's mom. No, that's not cool. Bro, chug another beer for the boys. Shotgun a glass bottle. Can you shotgun a glass bottle now? Shots. Let's go. I'm so down. We could do a shot together. Okay, so it sounds like we've gone from chug a beer to shots. So let's, here we go. I think there's about a shot left in that bottle. All right, so this here is aquavit. Apparently, it's a Norwegian tradition to do a shot of this on Thanksgiving. I have an uncle who's Norwegian who taught me that tradition, and I've followed it ever since. It's great kept in the freezer, and what do you know? That just fills it right up to the top. Perfect. All right. So, Chief Pimmerington, bro, I'm Norwegian. Cool. BML Twitch goes, bro, can we do a Skype call shot together? That could be a possibility. Roman Numa writes in, my uncle taught me very different things. At exactly 11:55, we'll take the shot. All right. Well, my Skype username is Army of Quad, and yeah, wait a minute, am I signed into that Skype account? Yes, I am signed into that Skype account, and we do have sound going to the board, so if someone wants to Skype in to Army of Quad, ARMYOFQUAD, Army of Quad, we can take the Skype call. So, let me bring that back here. Put my headphones on just in case we do get a Skype call in. So we're getting ready. Actually, we're going to do the shot at 12:55. So we got 35 seconds here that we're coming up on. Hold up. Got to grab my glass. Okay. I'm not set up to do screen capture. I can only take audio call. But you know what? We're down to 20 seconds here. So you know what? We'll worry about that next weekend. But let's do our shot. We'll all do this in spirit together here. We're down 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ah, yeah, that's good. Got that licorice taste to it. For the boys. Yes, for the boys. All right, let's go. Okay. Another one? I don't know about another one. Oh man, we're at 1 in the morning here. I can't drink like that anymore. Make like DJ. Okay, I'll hit another one. No, no, man. The bottle was empty. Uh, that was the last of it. There's no more aquavit. But tell you what, though, we gotta find someone to raid is what we need to find here. Now, 5 hit usually signs off at the top of the hour, so we don't want to raid him right before he's going to end. But, well, let's see. We got Ray Rachel, who does body painting, and we got Pineapple Hoops, who does hula hooping. I think either of them would, and we got Existence 130. She sings, very talented. So, what do you think? Who should we raid? Ray Rachel. Yeah, we can raid Ray Rachel. Yeah, we'll go ahead and do that. Yes, and treat her right. All right, so here we go. We're going to do a raid here. Thank you all. This has been a blast. And once again, thank you so much. Mondays, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern, is a show that I normally don't say the name of. I usually have a sound effect that says the name of it, but we call the show insert title here. The show that changes names so often, we just put a placeholder in. Tomorrow, later today technically, Sunday, 6 to 8 Eastern, is the Dune and Bob show. That's over on 5-Hit Dune's channel, but I do relay it here. And next Saturday, we're going to have some laptop fun, and you're not going to want to miss that. All right, so here we go. Let's we'll go ahead and raid Ray Rachel, and you all have fun. And I will hope to see you back here real soon. Let's go ahead and hit that. And you're getting ready to raid in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.